Mr. President, they were concerned about the issue of overpopulation, and he says that culturally, though, in this country, we're encouraging large families. That's kind of where we come from. How do we address the issue of overpopulation? I think in your speech you talked about food security as well. So I guess that those are closely linked.
Well, that issue I don't think is a simple matter, but it's a matter that I'm sure as a democratic country we should open a space for debate to say, how do we deal with our population? Globally, the population is growing. There are other countries that the population is not necessarily growing. If you take some of the countries in Europe, for an example, who debated this issue in two very specific positions to say, let us bring family control in order to control the population. Some of those countries are complaining about aging population. They are now wanting to have the younger generation coming. How do we debate that? I think it's a matter that is a matter of national interest that will need the national debate. I don't think you can have one opinion saying what do we think we should do. If the matter is arising, I think let us talk about it. And those discussions should help us to have an outcome of a view as a country as to what is the majority of this country saying about the population. I think with development, people have been quite cautious about how do we develop the question of the birth control, etc., which has always been there in different methods. But I think it's a matter really that would need the nation to voice their feelings about.
Another viewer also asked the question, the government seems to hire consultants a lot. When are you going to hire people instead of consultants?
Is the question a suggestion consultants are not people? There are people in different ways. No, but I think the question is legitimate in my view. I totally agree. It has been my concern as well. There is too much consultancy. I think in a sense, you have a lot of resources going to the consultancies instead of them going to programs. To me, what is critical is that instead of too much money going to consultants, they should go to the programs to develop the country, to change the quality of lives. I'm not sure whether employing consultants, we are not employing people. I think we are employing people. This is a question of what type of expertise we are looking at. I don't think you can say you can't have them at all, because there are some of the things in government that are highly technical, that they cannot be done by anybody. It needs people who are specialized in those particular areas. But I agree, you cannot make it the kind of everyday thing. Whatever you do, you go to the consultants. I agree with that. We need to balance that. And I'm sure we should take note of that kind of concern as government.
All right. Last week we were celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week, and that's a big theme for us as a country. Let's go to our audience here and start asking some questions there. Sean Kim, I think that's you. You're on table number 45. Sean, do you want to stand up? Because you have an issue around entrepreneurs. Where are you, Sean? Table number 45.
This side.
All right, okay. If you could ask your question and be as brief as possible. Actually, it's Sean Atchum, and we're with Smart Exchange. One of the biggest problems that we have in the country is that we're promoting entrepreneurship and innovation, while the Public Finance Act actually stifles any unsolicited proposals. So if you come up with a really good idea which can radically change the poverty situation, which can radically change employment, and you take it to somebody within government or somewhere else, that proposal is regarded as an unsolicited proposal and actually goes nowhere. So the question really is, what discussions are happening within the ministries at cabinet level with Mr. President yourself about how we're going to unblock the arteries of funding and unblock the arteries of decision making to allow for unsolicited proposals to flow through to a decision maker somewhere, and what support structures can be put in place to help to capture these unsolicited proposals?
Okay, Sean, thank you very much for that speech. I mean, question. Okay, so he's saying that people come with great ideas, but somehow these are regarded as unsolicited proposals. How can you facilitate those ideas coming through, and also that they can get funding quickly?
Well, it is important that the issue is raised, because before the issue is raised, you wouldn't think there's a problem. I think that the fact that the issue is being raised, that's a matter that I think we need to take to government. How do we balance our kind of systems to the population, that is people who are in this country, who have ideas to help the country develop, but who find it difficult in terms of our financial systems, and therefore they are not necessarily entertained, and then people say these are not solicited. I didn't think that government only deals with solicited kind of proposals. It deals with any proposal that comes. So I will note the point that he has made, and I think it is such an important point that perhaps if the questioner could actually find a way to write something down, to give some experiences, what has happened, at what point, because we might be having systems that in fact are not helping. We think they are good, but they may not be helping. So it is such experiences that will help us to rectify that, because if we are dealing with entrepreneurship, it must come from all directions. It cannot just be determined by government only. It must also be determined by the citizens who have got ideas, who must link up with government. So I would really want to get even some examples of experiences, and what then are the proposals that the questioner would himself say, given the experience, this is what we think needs to be done.
Okay, Sean Achim, thank you for that question, and I also suppose that the National Development Plan consulting process is going to be assistance. All right, let's go to table number 25. I think Mr. Black, you're on that table. What is your question? Where are you? If you could stand up, there we go.
Morning. Are you? Am I? Morning, Mr. President. It's table 27. The question I've got is, when will government allow business to select the best, i.e. qualified people to play their role, and not base their decisions on colour, because the best people in the jobs equals the best results and the best service, and I'm referring to municipalities, etc. We're one country, we should have one standard, and let's do it together. With the green initiative that we've got, let's all be green. Let's not be dark green and light green. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the question. Well, if I read the question very correctly, it seems to be raising the question of affirmative action without saying so, if I read it correctly. But put very nicely. I think when that question is raised, I know that people raise it from different ends. I think the reality is the history of this country, that for decades and decades, if not centuries, the question of the color in this country determined who gets what job. And that ended up shaping the structure of the economy. Who owns what business? So by the time we resolved our issues, there was a huge majority which was in fact outside of the mainstream of the economy. The question was, how do you rectify that? And then we emerged with the policy that says there must be an affirmative action. Because at that time that I'm talking about, it did not matter what skills you had, you were out. So you're dealing with people who had no experience because they were out. Now you had to say, let us affirm those, give them an opportunity so that they are participating as well in every respect. In fact, in terms of the structure of the economy, you still face that problem very seriously. The real economy is not yet considering or not considering whether you are yellow or green or what. It's still in this specific color. Now, that is being done to help others come into the process. But it should not be done to the detriment of the economy. I don't think that was the idea. The idea was to help all South Africans, give them equal opportunities. Because if you did not do so, you would have meant that those who were advantaged should continue being advantaged. And I know that people have got different views on this matter, but it's a reality of this country. But it should not be used to victimize or abuse the system. And it does not say others should not be part, but it was saying give others a chance to come in and participate. Not just the color, the gender as well, which was not considered before. So that also let us be gender sensitive. Of course it will have its own difficulties, but of course other people will feel, why am I being discriminated against? I don't think it was done to perpetuate discrimination, but it has been done to correct discrimination so that everybody is not discriminated. I guess that is the idea.
I guess the back end of that question though, and if I read him correctly, is saying that, look, if I am able to employ the right person with the right skills, I've got a better chance of growing my business to create more employment. Should I then be given an opportunity to get the yellow guy who is going to help me create more jobs for the green people?
No, I don't think... I don't think the approach says don't get the right job, the right person for the right job. It doesn't say so. I think it says you cannot continue as before. Let us do it properly. Because if you have got to employ the right person for the right job, the yellow person never had an opportunity before, and you are in fact saying you never had it, it's your business, I'm continuing as I did before. That is what we say should not happen. Give the yellow fellow also an opportunity. And it's not saying kill your business. Balance, how do you do it? How do you employ people in such a way that you in fact correct the past? And I think we'll have to insist on that. Because if we don't, we'll remain with a situation which will be perpetuating the past. But I'm saying you cannot correct the past by actually creating problems for the present. So how to balance that becomes important. The issue on this question is that people have got a psychological problem, which we must deal with. And we must deal with the psychological problem absolutely, because you can't kill the economy again because you want to employ the yellow fellow who knows nothing, and then he must be employed to mess up. Not at all. And if that is happening, as the question was asking, was saying that in the municipalities we've got that problem, that then we must correct, because we can't run down the municipalities using this corrective measure. In other words, you are not correcting, you are actually damaging the economy. So that must be dealt with properly. That is why if there is proper evidence of that, wherein people are actually employed on jobs they don't know, we must deal with that.
Okay. Let's go to table number 41. Neville Maki, is that correct? Neville?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Neville, what's your question?
Please
be brief.
Your Excellency, with the changes that have happened in Libya, how is South Africa going to position itself to enhance its diplomatic, especially economic relations with that country? Thank you.
Definitely we are going to enhance our diplomatic position. In fact, in the whole process, we as South Africa, of course, under the auspices of the AU, we dealt with all Libyans. We dealt with the Libyans who were fighting the Gaddafi regime. We also dealt with Gaddafi regime. All this time, up to this point, we are still dealing with them. And in fact, the NTC people will tell you there will be no solution in Libya without South Africa. They say it. And it is true. Even the big countries across the ocean will tell you that. In fact, South Africa has enhanced its position because it was not a puppet on that issue. It stuck to principles and it dealt with issues even when we were dealing with them. The NTC people were very clear on the principles. Even when we're dealing with the Gaddafi forces, we're very clear on principles. That has in fact raised or enhanced the position of South Africa, not only in the continent of Africa, but even by the countries abroad. They, in fact, have earned respect by stating the truth and sticking to principles. So it has enhanced our position, and therefore, they would know that doing business with South Africa, we are doing business with a country that you can predict. You know exactly what his thinking is.
All right, Mr. President, we'll leave it there for the time being. You're watching the SABC New Age business briefing from Sibaya, just north of Durban, and we'll be returning after this next break and putting more questions to the President. Stay